6 years ago, she was named the next Steve Jobs and the youngest self-made female billionaire in the world by Forbes magazine. However, the billion-dollar Theranos is in its last legs. Just before that, the billion-dollar business and its CEO, Elizabeth Holmes, ruled the world in 2014. Theranos was a groundbreaking project launched at that time by a lady who was recognized as a genius and dubbed the female Steve Jobs. Theranos, one of Silicon Valley's billionaire corporations, was created by Elizabeth Holmes, a college dropout with no medical expertise. Holmes had conned regulatory agencies and even some of the world's wealthiest businessmen, including Rupert Murdoch, Henry Kissinger, and Larry Ellison, into thinking she had devised a system to screen for a wide range of health issues using only a single drop of blood. These experiments, however, were a total failure, and the corporation was charged with frequently fabricating the results. One patient reported that a blood test showed that she would miscarry while pregnant, while another reported that they had received false positive HIV results. The 37-year-old pioneer of the now defunct blood testing corporation is facing prison time after being convicted of plundering billions from her investors. The defects and errors in Theranos' technology, as well as Holmes' role in trying to conceal everything, were exposed. After Theranos and Holmes were accused of major fraud, the company was forced to close its labs and testing facilities. Let me walk you through Elizabeth Holmes' journey from a bright young girl to an ambitious Stanford dropout to tenacious startup CEO. At the age of 7, Holmes sought to build her time machine, stuffing detailed engineering diagrams into a single notebook. Holmes has had a highly competitive streak since she was a child. She enjoyed playing Monopoly with her younger siblings and insisted on playing until she completely acquired all of the houses and hotels. Holmes established her work ethic in high school, frequently staying up all night to study. She swiftly progressed to the grade of a straight-A student and even launched her own small business, selling to Chinese schools C++ compilers, a software program that translates programming code. As she progressed through high school, Holmes continued taking Mandarin courses and persuaded Stanford University to admit her into their summer school, which ended in a trip to Beijing. Holmes decided to study medicine because her great-great-grandfather, Christian Holmes, who was also a surgeon, had inspired her to do so. Her aversion to needles put an end to that fantasy. She later claimed that this inspired her to found Theranos. Theranos is based in Palo Alto, California, amid the foothills overlooking Silicon Valley, which is part of the Stanford Research Park. According to the popular belief that this is the future of home inventors, many innovators who helped to revolutionize the world spent time there. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Steve Jobs are among others on it. Among the noteworthy investors, whom Holmes began pursuing venture investments for Theranos, were Tim Draper, the father of a longtime friend and the founder of renowned venture capital firm Draper Fisher Jurvetson, and Larry Ellison, the developer of Oracle. So far, Theranos has raised about $700 million in investments. According to reports, the company has developed a gadget that automates and processes blood testing using just a pinprick of blood drawn from the fingertip. To make things easier and faster, the company was shrinking a diagnostic laboratory that performs blood tests into a tiny box. The concept behind this machine was going to disrupt the status quo at that time because diagnostic laboratories were raking in billions of dollars in revenue. Many people were shocked at the news of such a development. This will allow patients to gain access to their medical information more quickly, preventing them from having to say goodbye to loved ones too soon. When Theranos peaked in 2014, it employed about 800 people and was valued at close to $10 billion. 4 years later, it was worth less than $1. After Holmes was charged with conspiracy and wire fraud, it was liquidated in September 2018. So what truly happened? How did a billion-dollar firm lose its whole worth? Her charisma, manner, and personality qualities were so unusual and unique that they have all been mentioned in several interviews, papers, and publications. She had persuaded several investors to make significant investments in her proposal simply by telling them about herself and her ambition, without allowing them to examine the business's financial accounts or the technology underlying the plan. Holmes only authorized investors to invest if they did not investigate Theranos' inner workings or how Theranos' technology worked. She would also have the last say in all business-related decisions. Theranos was completely obsessed with maintaining its confidentiality. During the first 10 years that Holmes spent developing their business, Theranos ran secretly. She even filed a lawsuit against 3 former Theranos employees, alleging they had mishandled company business secrets. She made every effort to fall under anyone's radar for suspicion. She was wary at all times. Almost everyone who has encountered her claims that she is an expert on her proposal and has all the answers, but she has never discussed the technology that would enable it. Her perception and reality appear to be at odds with one another. She was pressured by numerous media sources, technology corporations, and even the Pentagon to conduct trials of the machine, but she had a rigorous demonstration policy and strictly regulated access. All of the workers at Theranos Labs were being watched, and even incoming emails, their arrival, and exit from any area within the building were tracked. Employees were required to sign non-disclosure agreements that came with a mountain of paperwork and prohibited them from saying anything that could compromise the company's reputation. Employees were not allowed to share anything with their families, let alone the outside world. It finally led to paranoia. Elizabeth also had the help of Sunny Balwani, Theranos' president and COO. He was also a well-known figure in the technology sector and had brought with him some fame. When Elizabeth and Sunny proposed their idea to Walgreens in 2013, they promised that it would eliminate the necessity for a lab. The notion appealed to Walgreens, so they agreed to invest. Surprisingly, they never checked the contents of the box to verify it could provide the services Theranos claimed. Employees at Theranos were the only ones who were aware of the facts. In an interview, a biochemical engineer at Theranos said that the facility was a disaster and that it fell far short of the company's claims. On the company's website, it claimed that the machine could do 200 tests at once, but none of them had even been confirmed in the laboratory. Elizabeth's team members were instructed to leave the company if they attempted to convince her that her ambition was not technologically feasible. One of the few who did so was Ian Gibbons, the company's first veteran scientific employee. Only he desired to carry out the task in the appropriate order. He repeatedly informed Elizabeth that things weren't working and he had been excluded from making decisions as a result. Due to his persistent efforts to inform Sunny and Elizabeth of all the issues with the technology, he eventually developed a negative relationship with them. Early in 2013, the firm forbade him from testifying in opposition to a patent that the company had filed, fearing that he would reveal information that the company intended to keep secret. Despite Ian's fears that his integrity would cost him his career, he got fired, and that very day, he killed himself. Following sealing the deal with Walgreens, the business decided to test actual patients in Arizona before going live to the public. Even though they had received regulatory approval for in-store testing, the equipment was incapable of doing that task. The business, already running low on cash, leveraged the Walgreens offer to entice further investors. Due to this, Theranos was able to finance an additional $400 million. Rupert Murdoch and Betsy DeVos were among the new investors, and the system appeared to be operating as promised to both the investors and the patients. 2015 saw a significant increase in the amount of criticism the corporation received for its claims from the medical community. The business has been operating stealthily, not releasing any information about its product in research papers, journals, or other forms of media. Many physicists expressed their concern about the way this miniaturizing technique was being used to examine 200 tests at the same time. John Carreyrou, a Wall Street Journal reporter known for overlooking Medicare fraud, received information from his contacts to dig into Elizabeth Holmes' background in that same year. This was the tipping point in Theranos' downward spiral. According to John's sources, the machine could only perform a small percentage of the 200 advertised tests, and the company exaggerated the dependability and precision of its findings. He traveled to Arizona to get blood work at one of the wellness clinics to learn more about Theranos and Holmes, only to discover that the company was still using the traditional needle. This came as a surprise to John. When the news originally broke, the company flatly lied, claiming that those cases constituted only 1% of all cases. To correct this news, the company rapidly created a means to counter the machine and enable the Elizabeth fingerstick vision, which required only a drop of blood from the fingertip. Despite the awareness that using a fingerstick needle would result in erroneous results, testing was nonetheless conducted at healthcare facilities. Employees received distressing phone calls from patients who were crying and distraught because the test results were incorrect. Theranos went further down the slope when the patient's test findings did not match up with actual test results. John wrote an article for the Wall Street Journal on Theranos and its founder, detailing the company's misdoings, bad administration, fraudulent funding claims, and other issues. One thing led to another as a result of this, and this was a deep crisis for Theranos. The lab underwent an inspection by the CMS, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare. Theranos bypassed this inspection, never supplying CMS with the machine's raw data reports and instead providing them with third-party devices. They were also not given a tour of the full facility when the fingerstick tests were performed. Finally, The agreement between THERANOS and Walgreens was cancelled after CMS revealed that the company did not follow regulations and quality requirements, posing a risk to patient safety. Only 2 years later, the US Securities and Exchange Commission charged THERANOS with major fraud. Elizabeth and Sonny were accused of defrauding the public for years, raising well over $700 million by exaggerating the company's technological, marketing, and financial performance. Elizabeth had no choice but to resign as CEO and relinquish power as a result. And for 10 years, she was not allowed by law to hold an executive or board position with any public firm. In 2018, the business was shut down on September the 5th. The $9 billion company went bankrupt. After 7 days of deliberation, Holmes was found guilty on charges of fraud and money laundering and conspiracy to commit fraud. Holmes now faces a maximum term imprisonment on each charge, though legal experts believe she will not receive anything close to that. And that brings us to the end of this video. Let us know in the comments section your opinions on Elizabeth Holmes' supposed foolproof plan. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell to get notified when we post a new video.